Hello, guys. Welcome to Edenai Tarot. Welcome back to my channel where we illuminate your stars and your cards. This is going to be the breakdown of the astrology for October. Welcome to October. It is October 1st as this is coming out, and you are getting me in the midst of insomnia. I am recording this video on October 1st, so you're getting me nice and fresh and information raw. I've gone over the information. I figure why not? Since I actually wrote an article about the astrology of October in a newsletter for the school that I teach at. So um, I wanted to, so I figured basically, why not? Go ahead and just make the video. So I'm not sure if I'll be keeping the same format for like November and December and going into 2025. But since I am awake, I figure why not go ahead and just jump into what we can expect for October, especially since the eclipse is coming tomorrow. The eclipse does have its own separate video that will be coming out on the 2nd, as well as the taroscopes for that eclipse for all 12 signs will also be coming out on the 2nd as well. So you can stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, let's talk about what we have to look forward to in October. So for this video, I'm not going to be putting up any sort of charts on the screen, but I will be looking at charts for everything that's happening in October. So just kind of bear with me as I'm looking at the screen. So I'm going to go over kind of like the big things that I see first, as well as kind of going over some of my notes here. But let's go ahead and get into it. So, of course, the first thing that we have kicking off in October is the fact that we have that eclipse in Libra. And that, of course, has its own video. Stay tuned for that. The first thing we see after that, though, is going to be, so we're going to look at the ingresses that are happening in October. So we have Mercury entering into Scorpio on October 13th, which will bring a lot of intensity, curiosity, focus when it comes to communication. So a lot of intense communication. I think when we see Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, a lot of things in the media tend to get exposed. Things that kind of happen in the dark tend to come to the light, or the media starts talking about things that are a bit more taboo or that have to do with crime or like sex crimes. I think it's really interesting, especially lining up with everything in the media with one Scorpio in particular, allegedly, P. Diddy. I am very interested to see what comes out mid-October for when Mercury moves into Scorpio on that, because I highly doubt that we won't hear more about that once Mercury moves into Scorpio. But other than secrecy, crimes, we can also see maybe a bit of crisis, because Scorpio is a kind of like this one of the main signs that I really look at when I'm thinking about survivor energy. Um, Surviving through crisis, finding a way to survive and thrive in crisis in not the friendliest environment. And so it can be a time where we're seeing a lot of mental sparring, a lot of debate that's happening, a lot of undercutting people. It can also be, with communication a bit hard, because Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars. And so there is that like very direct communication that's happening, but also there can be a bit of conflict when it comes from that directness. But I think the biggest thing that we see in Scorpio that we don't see in like Mercury and Aries, which is the other side of Mars, is that there's almost like this deconstruction of communication, or that opens up for this beautiful kind of curiosity and reflection, to be able to transform how we communicate, or can, really transform how we are thinking about things and approaching things as well. It can also bring up kind of like what we are creating with other people and bring in new sort of connections, because Scorpio does have a lot to do with what we are creating with others or intimacy with others, and it therefore brings in a lot of honesty and vulnerability on its at its best with Mercury and Scorpio. At its worst, it can bring in like a lot of secrecy, paranoia, and mental crisis as well, especially since later in the month, Mercury in Scorpio will actually be opposing Uranus in um, Uranus in Taurus, which I think will bring a big focus to mental health. Um, and that will be happening on October 30th in particular. But I do want to kind of rewind back to what's happening with Mercury, since we're on that. And we started with the ingress into Scorpio on the 13th. On the 6th, though, we're kind of rewinding back while Mercury is still in Libra. Mercury will square against Mars in Cancer, where I think we see a lot of um, kind of back and forth about, is there a compromise that can be made. Mercury is about your thought process, and when it's in Libra, it's trying to hear all sides of a conversation, all sides of a debate. And Mars in Cancer is going about things a bit passively, and so it can be a bit frustrating when it comes to working with others, as far as trying to find a middle ground when um, there is a feeling of maybe the other person not wanting to face something directly, or going about something in a way where things are just very fluffy, or not, or just kind of like very superficial communication, and not getting down to the root of the problem. And so, like, I think about with Mars and Cancer, it's about sidestepping like a crab. But Mercury in Cancer, sorry, Mercury in Libra kind of has the same thing going on. Yes, it wants to find compromise. Yes, it wants to listen. Yes, it wants to connect. But it wants to be fair. And so it can lead to almost like this feeling of possibly, feeling pushed over, or feeling like a pushover in communication, and trying to balance that out, and possibly having some feelings of resentment from Mars and Cancer, because you feel like people have walked over you in a situation. Um, but I think directness really comes in more, and we talk about that more when Mercury moves into Scorpio on the 13th. Um, but we do see on October 8th that Mercury trine makes a trine with Jupiter in Gemini. So there's lots of communication. I think the first half of October, we do see a lot of, talk about gossip, a lot of talk about, just like a lot of communication about what's going on. And I think the media plays a really big part in this aspect as well. And I do just kind of want to caution that while I think it's a great time for connecting with others, getting out and being social, absolutely, it's a great time for learning. Mercury in Libra, trine Jupiter in Scorpio, I think is a great time for studying and understanding things. As far as it goes, like with getting messages like through um, gadgets like cell phones, or just kind of easing into like understanding a new subject based on the help of other people kind of coming in and helping you understand something. I think with Mercury going into Scorpio on the 13th, it can be kind of like a cautionary tale of not everything. Like, yes, there's a lot of talk happening, but not everything that the media is coming out with is true. Some of it is kind of like this orchestrated narrative, and it's really interesting to think about as we're coming up on elections, how this will all play out. I'm very interested to see how that plays out as well. Something else I could see between the trine with Jupiter and the square with Mars, since it is happening so close together, I do wonder if there will be some issues with authority figures, with bosses, jobs, things like that, because Mars in Cancer does have a lot to do with like security, and Mercury in Libra can be a bit indecisive about, having one foot in, one foot out of a situation to try and figure out what is the best way to um, either find compromise or how do you want to move forward. And so it can be a feeling of indecisiveness about telling somebody, or making a decision on what you want to do next. Can be another way that square with Mars can come through as well. So there's just a lot of talk. But I also wonder if, some of that has to do with family as well. Family kind of seeing you struggle to make a decision, and, having certain family members, get a bit frustrated because they feel like, the answer is so clear. Basically, what I'm saying is you can get a lot of unsolicited opinions during that first half of the month with Mercury, because Mercury on the 13th is also going to make a square with Pluto and Capricorn. So it brings in a lot of issues like with power dynamics. So right before it goes into Scorpio, it's going to square off with Pluto and Capricorn. And so it brings in like what is fair, what is not. Do I have to make this decision right now? Do I have to take action right now? And there can be a lot of like just mental pressure, I think, to be on one side or the other. Or it can be a lot of talk about like how has power been abused as well, what's not fair or what should be kind of broken down as far as like relationships with other people, and how do we talk to other people, where are things becoming a bit more harsh, or where then maybe has there been like uh, information that needs to be brought to the forefront about like what has the most integrity or where integrity is lacking as well. Obviously, kind of moving from that, Mercury will make a trine with Saturn, which I do like. It brings, again, a lot of focus, a lot of reflection. And then we already talked about Mercury opposing with Uranus on the 30th. That trine with Saturn in Pisces will happen on the 22nd. Um, Next, we have Venus entering into Sagittarius, which I absolutely love. It brings Venus, when it's in Sagittarius, it brings confidence. It brings like this larger than life generosity, and it just brings this very romantic, big gesture, kind of flirty kind of vibe when it comes to our relationships, especially romantic relationships. But it's very fun. It brings a lot of attention to like love of travel or love of learning, investing in those things. And it can be a great time for manifesting new connections, new relationships with people overseas or people that, are just far away or come from a different walk of life than you. It looks really good with Venus going through through Sagittarius. One thing I do want to caution with this particular transit through Sagittarius is on the 28th, we'll see Venus square off with Saturn um, in Pisces, where we have two signs that are traditionally ruled by Jupiter squaring off with each other. Venus can be, so much about harmony and creativity, and in Sagittarius, Sagittarius, it's larger than life, but Saturn and Pisces can be like, well, is this true? Is the illusion true? It's kind of cutting the bullshit, or are you falling into more of the illusion and just kind of becoming completely delusional and it's not practical anymore? I would warn against looking too much into the potential of a relationship or too much into a potential of what you think something can be built to be, rather than what it is at this time. You don't want to put the carriage before the horse. I think that's how that saying goes, but you get what I'm saying. You want to make sure that things are in order. Don't spend money that you don't have yet. That can be a really big thing with Venus square Saturn. It's like, you say that have all these things, but do you actually have the receipts? Do you have the proof yet? And Pisces, Saturn and Pisces can definitely be like, where is that missing thing? Where's that missing document? Yes, you said you're going to do this. But where are the receipts? Where is the structure? Where is the proof kind of thing going on? Um, let's see. Other than that, yeah, we have earlier in the month, we have on October 14th with Venus, we have Venus in Scorpio still, kind of rewinding back, opposing Uranus in Taurus, which can be more of a feeling of having groups of people, kind of push you to new things, especially when it comes to what's ours, and what isn't. I think it's more of a feeling of like feeling a bit unstable in relationships or having relationships be shaken up a bit, especially when it does come to finances and what we share with other people. And, do we feel like we can trust other people with our energy, our resources, our finances, and things like that? Uranus is a bit unpredictable. It likes to shake things up, but I think through change, we can also find a lot of breakthroughs as well with this opposition. I think it's all about balance, in particular. Moving forward, I think that's the only thing I wanted to really focus in on with Venus. Mars does not move out of Cancer. We still have Mars in Cancer all this month. Fortunately and unfortunately, but Mars is firmly situated in Cancer this month, and we see like towards the end of the month, I'm kind of coming into how it all comes together. Towards the beginning of the month, it's a lot. It's a lot of busy energy, a lot of hearing, like the opinions of everybody, and trying to almost passively, like work through things, and kind of having this wandering feel of not being sure which way is best to go, and maybe having a lot of options, but really not being very sure about what option is best. You're still kind of deciding. And as we transition into the last half of October, I think we see a bit more of a reflective kind of vibe come in, where we've made the decision and now we are kind of making it's kind of getting very quiet, and we're working on the things and reflecting on things um, to make them more stable. Uh, the last thing that I want to kind of cover um, is the full moon in Aries, which is going to be on October 17th. And I'll do a more in depth video possibly about this. I haven't decided if I'm going to do its own separate video for the full moon in Aries, or if there's going to be like tarot scopes for that just yet, because we're still in the eclipse energy for this whole month. And so I'm kind of debating on whether or not it's necessary. We'll see. But let me know if you guys want that video. If you guys want the video, I'll definitely, put it out there. But I say there's this kind of wandering energy because when we have the full moon in Aries, the full moon in Aries, can be about some sort of ending and beginning. It's a north node. The full moon is in the north node of Aries, and so it's about some sort of beginning, or what we are really climbing towards and wanting to achieve. And that's some sort of new beginning. It can be about achievement, and really just going on our instincts with a lot of things. But the thing that I want to bring up with this full moon in particular is that we have the ruler Mars in Cancer directly squaring this moon, which it can, when we have the moon and Mars in a square, it can cause a lot of like emotional turmoil, and it just like a lot of almost like picking energy. It's just very emotional and conflict filled. Mars in Cancer is already that way. It's in the moon sign, and so it's very much feeling a bit passive aggressive is kind of like the way that we can kind of see this moon. But I also see with Mars being a planet of action and the moon being change, it does become very hard to decide on a path forward. It can be, working on a lot of different projects at the same time and not getting anything done, and and nothing, and not really completing anything. Um, and I just think that this particular moon is great for, being very creative, um, and exploring options, but it's not the best for making decisions or actions that are logical. When we have Mars in the sign of Cancer, it's making actions based off emotions, and intuition and feelings, whether they be intuitive feelings, or like actual feelings, like, you're feeling extra sensitive emotionally and you make a decision or and therefore an action as well. And that's even amplified more because with the sun being in Libra, we have Mercury in Scorpio at this time as well. And so feelings are a bit amplified, since we have Mercury coming into a trine with the ruler of this moon as well. Um, and Venus is actually directly trining the moon as well. And so it can be a very sexy time. It can be a great time to just be very creative, like I was saying before. I wouldn't focus too much on the action part. I mean, I think it's inevitable. If you have to make decisions, you have to make decisions. Just keep in mind that it's probably going to be a bit frustrating, either for you or for someone else, because it can be very hard to nail down a very logical decision from somebody, or just nail down a decision, as far as a path forward, especially when it has to do like with home and real estate. If you're moving, it might be a time where you don't hear back from people, or there's a bit of indecisiveness coming from people on how to move forward. And that can be from you or from, if you're on the receiving end of it, I can imagine it's, a bit frustrating and it can cause conflict as well. But I think it's just a time where, like, because it's on the last half of October, it's a great time to be a bit more reflective and do a lot more listening than actually talking. And, kind of take a plan apart, put it in, deconstruct it, look at it closely, see what works, what doesn't work, purge what doesn't work, and then put it back together. And it becomes this new thing. And hopefully it's much more efficient, because efficiency is the name of the game while we are in an air sign season. But other than that, I do believe that is like my very quick overview of October. I don't want to have like this channel be like, where I'm putting out hour-long videos. And so all of my videos going forward will be, under half an hour is what I'm aiming for, except for the half-ass witchery episodes, which I hope you guys are enjoying as well. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Let me know how you guys are doing. Coming out of the Pisces eclipse, I would love to hear it and hear from you. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Oh, like, share, and subscribe. I knew I was forgetting something. We are trying to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers by March 2025. I think I said that in the beginning of this video, but we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you would love to help me out in that goal, go ahead and give me a share. Share it with someone that you think would enjoy this content and benefit from it. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.